Don't know if anyone's there yet. Don't really know how this works, to be honest. So, you'll either be able to see me and you'll start giving me little love bubbles and hellos and waves on your thing, or you won't be able to see me and I'm talking to nobody right now. I'm just going to have a look on my Facebook as well to see if I've gone live on there. I hope you are there. I hope there is some real humans there. If not, I'm just going to gabble on a little bit until I see whether or not there's anybody watching. Ooh, it says 8 people. Now I'm really freaked out. I hope you're just all friends of mine that I've invited and you all know me already. Right. It's weird. How do I make that bigger? There we go. Ooh, Facebook Live. Weird. So I'm going to start in a minute. I'm just going to see if anybody else joins. And I might just tell you a little bit about me, try and reduce my anxiety. You know, do that thing that you do when you're a little bit worried. You just start speaking randomly. Ooh, Andrea's here. I am. Hello. And Debbie Betts is here. Hi, Debbie. And ooh, my business partner, Dawn Chapman, says you'll rock it. And there's a 15-second delay. Thank you, Donna. I didn't know that. And Ruby says hello. I'm surprised you're not off listening to the competing lecture, Ruby. Thank you very much for showing up. I didn't know that we scrolled down the side. Okay. Oh, 7 o'clock. It's kickoff time, so I'm going to start. So, you can see I did put a little title and an introduction, so hopefully you have read that and you've got an idea of what I want to do. This is meant to be an informal chat, and I'm not sure that my anxiety is going to allow me to do that, so I have actually made plans. Sorry. So what I'd like to do is talk about using Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you may have already met in your studies. It doesn't matter at this point if you don't, but basically Maslow suggested for humans that they needed certain needs to be met before they were able to reach their full self, their full potential self. And you can see at the bottom, if we're building blocks, then we need to be making sure we're dealing with the physiological needs first, and then all the way up to eventually having somebody that is able to completely fulfill their abilities. And Linda Michaels converted this, where are you there, into a beautiful version which is for dogs specifically, which I love, and it's one of my favourite things when I'm explaining to clients that they must provide for these needs at the bottom in order to be able to build the dog that they want at the top. Yeah, and it shows on there all the different positive and force-free training methods that you're going to be using to get yourself there. So if you can get yourself a copy of that, you pay copyright fee to Linda for that, and she's happy for you to use it then for your training. But what I would like to do is I would like to point out that I don't think we're spending enough time making sure that the people are receiving those force-free and aversive-free methods from us. Now bear with me. You might feel like you are really caring about your owner and that you're really making sure that they're feeling cared for, but do you find yourself saying to other dog trainers, oh, that person, if they just, and you're gritting your teeth and you're swearing, and do you find yourself sometimes maybe not being able to meet the needs of that person because you can't think your way through how to help them? So if that's the case, then we've got 4 sheets of stuff that we can discuss about it. So what does the owner come to us actually needing? You know, as dog trainers, we might be really, really focused on the dog, and the dog is our thing. The dog is what we love to do. Get our hands on those puppies, train those puppies, show people what to do, and then send them off. But if we haven't met the needs of that person right at the base of that triangle, then they're not going to train as well as we would hope that they will. So we're not going to give as good a service as we could. So what does the owner need? Well, the owner needs to have a normal life. They've got this puppy and they have these expectations that this puppy's going to make their life better. But actually, to be frank, puppies are going to make life harder. They're going to make it difficult to have a normal life. So we need to help the owner to realize that that is the case, that they're not going to be able to maintain that normal life in the short term to begin with. We need to have owners who are in a condition to learn. And in order to be able to learn, we need to be in a stress-free environment. We need to feel that we can relax and we know what we're doing. So as dog trainers, we need then to be making sure that that is how they're feeling, that we have made them feel comfortable and settled. And if you're capable, when we do eventually open again, make sure that you're providing them with drinks and biscuits. Or if you're still doing Zoom, suggest that they get themselves drinks and biscuits and that they have their needs met, that they feel comfortable, they know what to expect. They need to trust their trainer, Have you actually given them a reason to trust you? Have they found out what qualifications you've got, experience you've got? Have they been able to reference other people that have used you? Or are you just demanding that they trust you without actually earning it? Do you have something in common with that person to help them feel bonded to you? Do you have a way of kind of feeling empathy for them, feeling that they will actually want to listen to you and learn from you? And that can be something as easy as finding a common interest or an emotional connection. So talking about yourself a little bit and letting them in, being open to them, and with anxiety, I can tell you it's difficult sometimes to let your guard down and to let people have a piece of you. But actually, if you can, then they're going to come forward to you easier. They need to feel safe, that if they are going to tell you that they're struggling or they're not coping, we need to make ourselves open to that. Otherwise, they're going to pretend that they're doing okay and they're not actually doing okay, and they're not going to come to you and you're not going to get a chance to help them. We need to really consider the owner's needs in everything that we do. Does the owner understand what you're trying to teach them? Can they understand what's actually expected of them? Are they able to do what you've shown them? Or can you, if they can't understand and they can't physically do it for one reason or another, are you able to find a different way so that they can then come in and join you with that? Are they physically capable of doing it? Do they have some other issue that's making it hard for them? Can you adapt how you train? Can you be more flexible? And that may be either a physical issue, it might be a cognitive issue. Remember that these people are not dog trainers. They haven't got the knowledge that you've got. Don't assume that knowledge. Make the criteria that you ask them to do, make those things achievable. Because if you're making it too difficult, the owner's not going to have success. And if they're not getting success, they're not getting reinforced, they're not going to be wanting to do more. For some clients, so that would be me type personality, the learning in itself is the reinforcement. Learning something new can be reinforcing for some clients. And we need to take that into account because they're the kinds of clients that might need that little bit more. They might need you to provide them with that little bit more. So what does the puppy need then? So we're going to do the same hierarchy of needs using Linda's scheme. What do they actually need from your classes? Well, they need, and therefore what does the owner need to know that they need to provide? Well, they need social connection, but that doesn't necessarily mean canine connection. Dogs are designed after thousands of years of living with us to want to be socially connected to us. So every dog doesn't want to be friends with every dog, and owners need to be helped to understand that that's the case. Puppies need to be able to rest, and especially during lockdown, I think one of the biggest things we've seen is puppies that are developing problems as a result of lack of rest, having their owners available 24/7 and moving around constantly, and not having a place where they can go and just relax and take themselves away from it. And sleep deprivation is awful, isn't it? You know, if you've ever tried to work a full day after you've not slept very well the night before, if you've got a young baby or even a, let's face it, puppy, then you're going to find it hard to focus on what you're supposed to be doing. Puppies need to learn how to control their emotions, and owners don't realise that, I don't think. And if we need to help them to realise that puppies don't come as these ready-made beautiful dogs that they've maybe had in their minds. They come as these emotional messes, these high arousal, nasty little things that are so hard to live with. And we need to give the puppy opportunities to learn to self-control, to keep their own arousal levels low. We need puppies to learn to be confident, and owners are either, I find, reluctant to put puppies into new experiences because the puppy seems a little bit concerned about those experiences, so they'll then start to protect them too much and keep them too much, or they're absolute opposite. They'll throw them into everything and expect them to deal with it. So we really need to help the owner to realise that the puppy's confidence is built through the puppy's choices and taking themselves into those new situations. But the owner needs to provide the opportunities. Puppies do stuff that owners hate, but the puppies really need to be able to do those things. So examples of those that owners hate: chewing, you know, they don't care what they're chewing as long as they've got something in their face. Biting, digging, barking. All of these things, owners sometimes they're not expecting it, and it comes almost as a complete shock to them. And there can be a real big, they can have emotional breakdowns, these owners, about these dreams that they had, and then they get these horrible monsters moving into their homes and turning their whole house upside down. And puppies need a safe learning environment, just the same way as owners do. The puppy needs to feel safe, and so does the owner. And we need to be aware of that when we're teaching. If we're teaching them, whatever environment they're in, the owner needs to feel that not just their puppy is physically safe, that they're keeping them in a safe place, but the owner needs to feel that they're emotionally safe, that they're not going to be attacked or ridiculed or shouted at, or, you know, that they feel supported. So what does the owner need to learn then? Well, the owner needs to learn about the biological needs of the puppy, which is the base of that triangle. They need to offer nutrition, water, exercise, which is appropriate to the development of that puppy, the size, the shape, the energy levels of that puppy, sleep, safe place to rest, safety in general, so not being exposed to things that make them too stressed, and social contact, which is given at the puppy's choice, that they're not being forced into those situations. The puppy's emotional needs are for security and love and trust and consistency, and having somebody who can help to lead them safely into new experiences. So we call that leadership, but you have to be careful with that word now because it's developed some nasty connotations. You don't have to be bossy or nasty to be an effective leader. You can still be a very good friend to your pup, and a good parent to your pup, and a good guider to your pup. Puppy social needs: bonding with people and dogs if you're living with dogs and you have access to dogs in social isolation, but it might also be other animals as well. You know, we have all sorts of other animals living in our homes just now, and dogs need to learn how to live with them. And how to do that in a socially appropriate way. So I think one of the things that you have to be very careful about how you explain to your owners and how you help them to understand is that socialization isn't just about chucking them in there and letting them find their own way. Socialization is very much guided by the parent figure, and that's us. That's us for our dogs. And remembering that social reinforcement is extremely valuable. Your dog is going to be looking to you to find out, did they do it right? They've got it right? Do they need to do it a different way? So it's not just about handing out food. It's also about making sure that you're giving childish almost reinforcement and praise to your puppy. Again, making sure that the puppy learns how to deal with those natural behaviours, the chewing, the biting, the fear responses, how to actually cope so that they're not losing their rag with their puppies. Remembering to teach your owners that dogs do not understand words, that we teach them those later on. For now, body language and preventing them from getting it wrong in the first place is going to be the way to go. And being grateful for the growl. The amount of times I've had puppies come into class and they're a little bit overwhelmed and they growl because they see another dog or a person and they're not sure how to deal with it, and then the owner tells them off. And we need to quite quickly intervene and say, don't worry about that, do this instead. Show them a way of coping that's not going to make the situation worse. You can come back after and take them to one side and you can say, look, the reason your pup's growling is this, and we can make it worse if we carry on telling them off. Let's help them. And thinking about what has the pup already learned and experienced before. So if we're looking at pups that have come from questionable backgrounds, and we do know that they are out there, then we need to set that setting for the owner so that the owner understands that that particular puppy is not going to be looking like the other pups in class, that they're not going to be coming forward and doing it the same. They're not going to be as confident. I'm going to take a break there because I'm like, oh heavens, I'm going bright red and I'm stressing out, but we'll keep going. Have I got any comments and things so far? Have I lost you all? I don't know. I'll come up on that computer without your help. Love that, well said. I'm not sure what that relates to because I'm not. It isn't rolling past my the chatter isn't rolling past. So I'll go back and I'll read it later. And if there's any questions, please do put them in. If I've said something and you're not sure whether or not I've explained it properly and I need to explain it a different way, do ask. Where are we up to? Okay, so owners, a lot of owners, although I think it is getting better, but a lot of owners are not aware that they have to take the pup's emotions into account. They're still very much of, I need to just deal with the behaviour, I need to stop that behaviour, I need to train that behaviour. They don't realise that there's an internal self in that puppy that they need to be helping. And explaining that to them and teaching them that that's the case is a complicated business, because we might have spent 20 or 30 years educating ourselves about how internal emotions and stress hormones are going to affect how the puppy interacts with their environment. That owner doesn't have that, so we have to find a gentle way of explaining it to the owner so that they can then help their puppy. Remembering that day-to-day stresses can affect behaviour, and I think there's a lot of time when somebody will come to me and their puppy's had a really, really bitey day and they think they're getting everything wrong, and actually when you break it down for them, well, what did you do today? What did you do yesterday? And your pup is just in stress overload. They really just need a chance to completely decompress. They need some off days. They need some time just sniffing and relaxing and sleeping and cuddling. Okay. How to recognise stress signs is something that we really need to teach. And I really love Sophia Yin's graphics for teaching owners how to recognise stress signs. I think they're great. So if you want to look those up, or I can find a link for you for those. We need to be aware that once your puppy's in stress condition, they're not going to be able to learn, and some of these, I'm really scared that some of these lockdown puppies are not really going to have learned very much at home, except how to get more stress. And when they start being exposed more to the world, they're going to find it even more difficult to deal with the world. So but then at the same time, what we have to make sure the owner understands is that complete stress avoidance doesn't work either. If you're not getting little vaccinations of stress and learning how to cope with them, then you're not going to be able to deal with them in the future. So we have to have these little exposures to things not going quite the way the puppy would prefer them to go, so that pup can then learn to deal with that situation and that feeling, and how to keep themselves calmer. Some people really don't know how to play with their puppy, how to interact with their puppy, and they may have been exposed to information that tells them that play and tug games is the wrong thing to do, and that they're coming already with this information that they've learned and they believe in because they've practiced it and because it's worked for them in the past with other dogs. And then they come into your class and you're saying, yeah, we're going to teach a puppy to play and we're going to teach them to tug. And the amount of times people will stop and look at me and they're really shocked. You're going to teach us how to play tug? Well, yes, I am. And you need to help those people. You don't just say you are going to. You just say, try this, and then we'll show you and we'll explain to you how it works. And teaching owners to understand how playing with you increases social bonding and increases understanding, and it can increase emotional self-control and stabilization. So it's a fantastic thing to do, and it's really important that you learn to play together and how to play so that your puppy actually enjoys it. Learning how to communicate with the puppy is something that requires the owner to learn more about their specific puppy and about the body language that puppy uses to try and communicate with them. And learning that different pups have different personality types that they might come already programmed with genetically is really important. You're not going to take your average working Cocker Spaniel and expect it to sit and go to sleep in the middle of a busy cafe for a couple of hours while you nip out to, socialise. You remember the olden days when we used to do that. Whereas you might take your Basset Hound or your Newfoundland and they might be happy to just lay out and relax. So one pup's going to need much more training and assistance to be able to do that. The other pup then, the less motivated, the less busy style of personality, they might actually need you to rev them up a little bit to get them a little bit excited about training. So personality type's really going to affect how you deal with the training issues. And owners don't realise that, and I've had owners in class who've been watching the other dog doing the stuff and they start to get upset because their dog isn't doing it. Well, you need to help them to understand their dog isn't the same. Their dog has a completely different makeup and we can't expect them to be working at that thing. And their dog will have something that they're really, really good at, that other dog is not going to be good at. Yeah? Is going to learn easier. Reading body language, learning how to read what the puppy's trying to tell you, and that is a skill that I think it's relatively easy with a little bit of guidance to learn what your particular dog is saying to you, and I think we can really guide owners with that. And I think that dog trainers have to be able to read everyone else's dogs, but if we can help owners to really read their own dogs, then that would be a massive increase in welfare and understanding between them. Consent training for handling, and I mean training the owner how important it is to ask for consent and to allow the puppy the choice of coming into them and being handled by them. And teaching your puppy that sometimes they don't get a choice. if you think about it, as a veterinary nurse for 30 years, the amount of times that an animal comes in who hasn't been exposed to handling, doesn't feel safe being physically restrained, and as a result has a much more stressful time in the veterinary practice than they should have had. If we can, with our tiny puppies, expose them to these small stresses of being physically restrained and then released, and if we release them when they're not fighting, we're reinforcing being still. And being still makes those veterinary procedures much safer, much quicker, much less stressful. And we're definitely removing money from our emotional bank. So handling needs to be trained and reinforced and have choice as much as possible, but I think it's equally important to teach the pup to cope. All right. So why should we teach why do we expect, why should the owner teach force free? Why should they, from their point of view? Well, we're the ones that are going to teach them. We're the ones that are going to show them how it works. And if we're not teaching them with force-free methods, that's not going to translate very well to them using force-free methods on their puppies, especially when these puppies are driving them absolutely bats, and they're ready to throw the little toad on at the wall, because that is how they make you feel sometimes. We need to be empathic here. We need to be really having empathy for how those owners are feeling, and how awful it can be sometimes living with a puppy, and be genuine in that empathy, and I think what I've found is the longer I am away from having had a pup, I can feel my empathy levels start to go down, because I've not recently been through it. If I'm going through it myself, and my dog is being a proper normal toady puppy, and I'm going through those same stresses, then I can feel that empathy much more easily. We need the owners to be able to understand that if they move on from you, I would like to imagine that they will know how to choose another force-free trainer, and if they decide for whatever reason that they don't want to stay with you, hopefully you've developed a relationship enough where you can guide them towards somebody else that's going to give them good service and teach them good things. We don't want these puppies to fall into the hands of people who are using methods that are going to break them. And we need to give them skills on questions to ask, the 10 questions to ask to find out if your trainer is a reward-based and force-free trainer, which I love. If you haven't had those, I can find, they are available on the internet, the 10 questions to ask. Okay, as far as actual training methods, there's tons of training method available. There's really good stuff on the internet available, free stuff. And we need to guide people towards that, as well as providing our classes. Let them read around the subject. Let them find out for themselves that you're not making it up, especially being as some of these owners have come with all of this previous knowledge from friends and neighbours and telling them they need to do it this way and they need to tell the dog off, and they're in such a twisted mess. Provide them with the right places to look, because again, there's a lot of rubbish out there on that internet, and it is very, very easy, because as we know, punishment is reinforcing for the owner because it appears to work. It appears to work straight away. It appears to stop that behaviour. So it reinforces the owner to do that punishment. Someone said, "Hi, Twiggy." Yeah, Twiggy's finally got up and she's looking. She's my little emotional support person. All right, so thinking about helping owners to live with pups, I think one of the things we can really do is to help them timetable their life, help them to timetable how to fit the puppy into their life. And we need to be thinking about giving time slots for alone time and sleep time and food time, and training time and play time. And I think now we've got these things we can use. We've got these mobile phones that we carry around with us, and you've got Google Calendar, and you can set up alarms to tell you now it's the time to do such and such with your puppy. Or you could go old style. You could do yourself a little written chart with ticks and times, and we're making sure that they know that in order to get their puppy toilet trained, we need to be taking them out this frequently, and it needs to be on a timetable. And the more that we get it onto a timetable that fits around the owner's capability, the more they're likely to do it. If we set them a timetable, if I just hand out this standardized timetable, the owners, that's not going to fit with their life, and they're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to be successful, and if the owner isn't successful, they're not going to keep going with it. Okay, so what does the puppy need to learn in order to fulfill his needs? He needs to learn where his safe place is, and he needs to learn how to be alone. Okay, and that is not that you're going to force him to spend time on his own, but that spending time on his own is a nice thing to do. Okay, so it's about habituating them slowly to wanting to be in a space alone. And that starts with them actually not being in a separate space to you at all. It starts with them being in a crate or in a cage space. It starts with you, for some puppies, it's just a mental separation. It's not even a real physical separation. So we teach them that for a certain period of time when I'm doing this, you're not going to get any attention from me. So my dogs, as you can see, Twiggy's just come over because it's actually Twiggy's tea time. She's coming over and wandering around because she wants to know why dinner hasn't been served. And what they've learned from experience with me is that when I'm facing the screen and I'm speaking, there isn't anything they're going to do that's going to get my attention away from it. So that isn't that they've been trained specifically to do that, it's that they've learned by trying and failing. So, what else we got? Appropriate chew items. The puppy needs to learn what's a chew item and what isn't a chew item. And until then, we need to prevent them from practicing on non-chewable items. And that means safety first. If you think about it, you wouldn't leave a toddler, human toddler, in a room without covering the electric sockets and locking the cupboards that have the disinfectants and things in them. And it always amazes me that dog puppy owners come back and they say he's eaten such and such, and you think, well, how did you get that? You know, were you not considering the fact that your puppy might think that would be a good thing to put in their mouth? But that's taking it for granted that owner knows that puppies are going to want to put everything in their mouths. Well, they don't. That's the thing. We don't want to be taking it for granted that an owner knows anything. How to share things, you know, it's not natural for dogs to share. They want to get something and protect it. Most dogs have grown up in litters where they've fought over different things and they've had to protect those different things. So teaching them to share things with you while you're holding chewies and things for them, teaching them to swap and to drop those things, and having them learn that actually having you around and to engage with those things with them is really good fun. And learning who it's safe to socialise with, the puppy learning who it's safe to go over to, who it's safe to interact with. And that doesn't necessarily come naturally, remember, so we do need to help them, we do need to provide opportunities, and we need to set them up, not just expect that it's going to happen automatically. And what's that saying? My 8-month-old puppy loves to chew my husband's shoes. Ooh, so hide the shoes. Maybe my little old girl who's just wandered past, the little black and tan one, her first and last chew accident, and that's owner caused chew accident, was a brand new pair of shoes. Literally, I just bought them that day. And yeah, Twiggy's posing beautifully in the background. She absolutely is, and that's her way of trying to get my attention, because if she looks beautiful, I have to look at her. I can't help myself. Okay, so what does the owner need to take into account when they're organising their training plans with specific owners or even groups of owners in mind. So what actually motivates an owner to start training their dog? What actually makes them want to do it? Well, the easiest way to get somebody motivated is to give them a picture of where that's going to take them. So a mental picture of where it's going to take them. So you would ask them questions like, what do you want your life with your dog to look like in the future? What's your goal? How do you want to be with your dog? You know, and just really imagine how you want that to be. And it might be that they've had a dog in the past and they want the dog to be similar to that dog. Again, we may have to manage expectations on that one, especially if it's a different breed or if it's a completely different character, personality. What other people might think of them is a real big motivator for owners. You know, there's quite a lot of people living in family groups where the other person didn't really want a dog and doesn't want to live with a dog, and that dog's already at risk of being, you know, losing that home. So we need to really recognize that they have a specific goal and we need to help them get there with that. What other people are going to think of them? Yeah, it's a real big thing actually. And as a dog trainer, I have to tell you, Twiggy is reactive and was extremely nervous and scared of everything as a pup. And she still embarrasses me even now, and it puts me off. It makes my anxiety go absolutely wild sometimes. The idea of taking her out makes me really not want to go there. So, you know, it's not just normal humans who suffer from it, it's dog trainers as well. We want to train or the owner wants to train so that they can avoid perceived future problems. So that's a good goal, isn't it? But we need to make sure that they're able to get there with that. And some owners, but actually very few, have said that they want to do it because their dog will be better. They will have a better life. Their welfare will be improved by training. So it's always odd to me that perhaps, you know, I think maybe because I'm a dog geek, I see it the other way around. I want the dog to be happy first and then the owner's second. But we need to take into account that the owner's the one that pays the bill, you know, and we need to get their goals set and get them moving towards the goals that they have in their minds, or help them to understand that those goals are a bit too far out. What actually puts an owner off learning or coming to training or continuing to train? Well, lack of motivation. So lack of those ideas in their mind of where they would like to be and how to get there, and the support of the dog trainer to get them there. Being forced or feeling pressurized actually is a real big demotivator. So if the owner feels they come into class and the dog trainer is saying you must do this, you must do that, and their dog can't do it for whatever reason, and the trainer keeps saying no, you must do this, you must do that, and they don't recognize that that person needs additional help, then that person's just not going to want to turn up to class anymore. They've not felt supported, they've not felt safe, they haven't felt like they're learning. Lack of motivation, so they're not going to do it. Previous experience of trainers which has made them feel uncomfortable or uncared for is going to put them off going to another trainer. Even if they've heard good things about the next trainer, they're taking all of these emotional baggage with them. So we have to be aware of that and take it into account. You know, when we're selling our products, we need to recognize that there are people out there that really need our help but are not going to be able to risk coming forward because they don't want to risk being treated the way they've been treated before. And I think that's so sad. Previous experience of other methods working, you know, so they come in, and I've had them, they come in and they've got their choke collars and things on, and you know, if you immediately try to change their views, what you're going to do is you're going to cause them to want to push back against what you're saying. So you've got to be ever so careful how you introduce the idea that what they're doing might be harmful. You don't want to attack them with it because you'll just put them off and you won't see them again. If you lose that owner, You lose that opportunity to help that dog. So you need to be very gentle about how you help them to change over to gentler methods. What reinforces our students, our owners, our dog owners? Success. Success. Right away. As soon as we can get them winning and their dog learning and showing that they're learning, that owner's going to be feeling good about themselves, and that's really important. Also, success that the teacher, the trainer, has noticed and reinforced. Oh my God, you're doing it this week. You couldn't do it last week. You know, getting in there and really praising them up. Okay, social reinforcement. So that's from in group class. That comes from the other students in the group. I really like to get people commenting on each other. The rule being, I want you to find one nice thing to say about what just happened between Bob and his dog. Yeah? And once you've got them into the swing of doing it, you can actually develop a real strong friendship group who will support each other and they'll celebrate wins with each other. And I think it's just the best thing ever. We can point out the financial benefits of training our dogs. So dogs whose vet visits won't require sedation because the dog's happy to stand and have that minor procedure done. You know, I've had dogs coming in to be sedated, to be groomed, relatively minor grooms even, or nail trimming. And, you know, if we can help them to learn that it's okay, that it, and the owner can understand why it's a good idea to do it, even though maybe it takes a little while, then that dog's going to have a better life, but they're also going to benefit financially. The big one for me is to teach the owner how much of a better bond they're going to get with their dog. You know, over the years, I've had so many people come back to me when they're, bless them, I've lost so many of my original puppies now. They've gone through old age, and you know, every one of them breaks my heart. But the owners have come to me and said, it was because of the way you taught us that we had such a good relationship with this dog, and we want to bring the next one to you. You know, we don't want to go anywhere else. And that is, that's my reward. That's where I come from when I'm doing it. And remember, some people are in it just to learn, and don't ever hold back. Even if you are training your competitor of the future, what I want you to think about, as dog lovers, would you rather be sending somebody out there as your competitor using the right methods and helping thousands more dogs? Or would you rather somebody didn't come into your class, didn't come and learn from you, went and learned from somebody else who wasn't teaching the right stuff, and then went and spread that around instead? You know, I'd rather share. So what if they're going to go away? It just means more dogs are going to be helped. Okay, let's have a look. So what should a trainer provide then? Empathy, really listening, really understanding what the owner needs. Not listening just to answer the question, but really listening for the gaps in the information as well, the things that they're holding back, leaving them a space to encourage them to come out and say it out loud. Okay. Empathy, I think, learning to feel and to understand people who seem to have really opposing views to ourselves. Remember, if you don't find a common ground and you just dictate and you just tell them, then you're going to lose them. You're going to set them against you. You're going to have them just want to fight back. So we're going to have compliment sandwiches. We're going to say things like, that's really good. I love the way you and your dog do this. I would change this a little bit, but that's amazing. So we've got really good, little bit of, and really good. So a compliment sandwich is a really nice way of getting people on your side. But sometimes these people have come in and they've got these really strong views. I've had people, after they've spent some time with me, they'll come to me and they'll go, I just didn't know. And I'm going to say to you all now, I learned using forceful techniques. I was trained to yank and pull and use a choke chain on my dog. And I thought that was the right thing to do because I didn't know better. And it took me a long time to learn and to change. I'm not going to expect somebody to change overnight when I knew that it took me so many years to finally get there. And now I could hit myself up the side of the head. That wouldn't be very force-free, but I could hit myself up the side of the head for the things that I did to my previous dogs. Now that I know how much easier and better and safer, and the result is so much better. So don't attack these people. Get to know them, help them, influence them, and slowly they will come round and they will. So somebody said, and I couldn't find, I knew the reference, but I couldn't find out where I found it from. Plant the seeds of knowledge. Plant those ideas. Keep those people alongside with you. Don't push them away, but plant little seeds of knowledge, and those little seeds will grow if you give them fertile ground. Okay, now then, where are we? So trust, owner being able to trust that we're not going to hurt them, emotional safety for the owner, guidance, not force, and cognitive control. What do I mean by that? Well, I think if we expect that our owner is going to want to know everything, we're going to throw everything at them and we're going to blow their brains out. But likewise, if we keep our training really simple and really narrow, there's going to be some people that go, well, I know all of this, why did I spend money on this? So we need to make sure we also provide the option for those people. We need to provide links, we need to provide and share other people's videos so they can take that knowledge forward. Yeah, so that's important. So we're giving the owner cognitive control over their learning. We're providing them other links. And want to finish just with one little reference that I found in one of my books that I do read, and I have read several times. But she'd taken this from, she sort of made it up from a couple of papers that she'd read. And it says, despite hundreds of books available on how to train dogs for every conceivable behaviour or purpose, there are only a few that focus on the extremely important factor influencing dogs every days of their lives. They're human companions. Missed the last word because my finger was on top of it. They're human companions. The most important influence on a dog's behaviour and training. Not us, not dog trainers, but the owners. And if we're going to change how people view force-free and aversive-free training, we need to be making sure the owners feel that it's a good thing. All right, well, that's me done with that bit. I hope that was all right and it wasn't too preachy. I'm going to have a read at your comments and see. We'll take it all the way back to the top, see if there's any questions. If you can think of any questions, so you can think, put me on the spot. I quite like it. I quite like to get my brain going. Let's have a look. Okay. Hello, I love that. Well said. We did that bit, didn't we? Nailing it, Julie. I love you, Andrea. Andrea's one of my bezies. In Shebang, we met at dog training, and I just happened to be a trainer, and it turns out that she's just the best owner in the whole wide world. I love how the dog appears in the background as if listening, but hidden, but then eventually moves into full view, is giving his full attention to the speaker. They both are. I did consider putting the lights on through there, so you would get a better view of them, especially maybe because you can only just about see her little grey muzzle. But then I thought you might be so distracted by them that you wouldn't hear a word that I said, so I decided I would do a little bit of one-upmanship on them. I really struggled with my confidence as a trainer and dog owner for my first assistance dog prospect, even with a force-free trainer. I've had a really tough time with someone who didn't build my own confidence despite seeing what I was being taught was working for my dog and his tail wagging away and stuff when working for me. So I'm trying another because even my dog's senses are not coping. Absolutely, you know. And if you found a really good force-free trainer, and for one reason or another you don't fit with them, they will help you find somebody that fits you better, you know. So and I've done it. I've done it before. If I felt that for some reason I'm not gelling with a client, I'm going to help them find someone else to go to. So well done you. And for recognizing as well that that particular situation isn't working for you. So that was a comment by Oliver. So thank you for that. A great one for trainers to consider too is how to find the right groomer. Absolutely, for dogs and puppies. I can take so much of this into my salon, building my relations, expectations of the owner for what I can do too. Absolutely. You know, and I think that's going to be a big growth in business is positive reinforcement and using force-free methods in grooming parlours. It's not easy. You know, as a veterinary nurse, I know it's not easy. Not everything I do in my day-to-day life is force-free, and I hate it. It's upsetting to me. But for groomers and for veterinary nurses, what we can remember is that we are doing it for, in most cases, we are doing it for the welfare of the animal physically. Yeah, so although it's damaging them possibly a little bit emotionally, it's necessary, you know. And I do feel for the poodles, especially with lockdown, because a lot of them are going to the groomers now and they're in pain because the coats have grown too tight. So yeah, I do feel for you. And I think if groomers can get owners to pay enough to give them the time to spend the time to slowly groom and slowly do the job, that would be amazing. Brilliant and informative talk. Some very good advice. Well, thank you very much, Sammy. Super concise summary. That's coming from somebody I see as one of my heroes. So thank you very much, Donna. My 8-month-old puppy has become skittish. We struggle to socialise her because of the pandemic. She doesn't want to train with me. She does love walks and to play with other dogs. That's really hard. I do understand. What you've got to be aware of though with your 8-month-old is that they're also dealing with adolescence and all the hormones and changes in the brain that go hand in hand with adolescence. I think with somebody like that, I would really want to develop a good relationship. So do things with your dog that your dog does enjoy, rather than panicking about them not wanting to join you in what you enjoy. Does that make sense? Maybe a little bit twisted. Right, and I think that's everybody's comments, and that leaves me with a whole 9 minutes. So if nobody's got any other questions, I can either just let you have a better look at Twiggy before I sign off, because, you know, she's my dog and I love her, both of them, but Twiggy's my show girl. Or I can just sign off and say thank you very, very much for listening. I hope that you have found it useful and interesting. Who's this? It's a huge thing getting owners to understand I need to see them monthly, yeah, not once a year, but getting there slowly with the help of Sue Williamson's book. Yeah, absolutely. I love that book. And I think it will become a thing, you know. The more, because what happens is these dogs come back so irregularly that eventually groomers won't do them anymore. And then they start having to take them to the vets to be sedated, to be stripped off. And now they've got these dogs who look a mess because they're not being groomed by real groomers. They're being, they're being stripped off by veterinary nurses while they're asleep as quick as possible. So we're not out to make them look fancy. We're out to just get the coat off. And that's downright expensive as well. So if you can explain to them, this is where you're going to be going. If you don't let me do it slowly and regularly, your dog eventually, and then they come to me. Yeah, absolutely. They do. They're going to try and find somebody who's going to work with their dog. But they don't always go to people that are going to take time. You know, they'll get people who sit them on choke collars and straps on their back end so they can't move, and I don't know, all of that nasty stuff. But anyway, all right, so thank you very much. That's awfully nice of you. Here's Twiggy and Maybe. You coming in and saying hello? Come on then. You going to say hello? You put your paws up on there. Come on then. Oh, there's a Maybe. She doesn't quite fit. She's only a cup. Come on, Twig. There's a good girl. Yeah. And kisses and everything, and wave at the people. Yep. Good. Thank you very much. All right. Bye.